Aloha. Let's look at, we've got this tutorial from Microsoft called Web Development 101 using Web Matrix. If you just type this phrase into your favorite search engine, it should get you started. It's also available from the Microsoft/Web website, and then you click Get Started, Learn, and it's one of these tutorials, this one right here, Web Development 101 using Web Matrix. Okay, so I'm going to move this off here so you can focus on this is Web Matrix, and we're going to start with part 2 because this is how we get started with our first page. Now let's see, it says creating your site, so we're going to click Templates, HTML, empty site, and we're going to name this site Movies. Next. Okay, so I already started this one, so I'm going to call this Movies 1. Click Next. Installing empty site. Okay, so now I have my Movies 1. I should be able to run my site here. And that loads up you can see my local host, 27906. There's nothing there yet. If you'll notice over here, I can look at files and see there's an index.html, but let's open it up. There's nothing in it. Now if I type in our ever popular Hello World and save it and then type run, and I come back over here and I go to index.html, and there's my Hello World. Now let's see, so moving on with the tutorial, I have my site. Take a look. I'm going to create a new file, and I bring up a new file, and this is CSHTML, and I'm going to call this default CSHTML. Okay. Then, actually this is supposed to be, there's a couple typos in this, or the screenshots don't match up. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this, because this first file is actually just an HTML file, so we'll go ahead and create new file, HTML, call this default.html, and then we're supposed to make it look like this. Okay, so we add some items to the body, first level heading, a list of my favorite movies. An ordered list, and list item, It's a Wonderful Life. Lord of the Rings. The Fourth World. The Lion King. Okay, now if I save this, and I should be able to open this file with Windows Default. I come over here now, and there's a list of my favorite movies. Now this is the web page on my local site, on my local folder, but if I hit the web server, I go run, and it's supposed to launch that page. We'll get to that later, but we'll go default.html, and there's a list of my favorite movies. So I'll move that back there. and keep going. Okay, it says you are entering some text into the title tag. Oh, I forgot that one. My favorite movies. Okay, and then, so we have that. And so that site running. My favorite movies. The tutorial has you launch it in multiple browsers. We'll try to skip through that and save a little bit of time, and they'll walk you through the HTML. Okay. In our next part, we're going to try to add some style here. And the first thing they want us to do is enclose this ordered list in a div. Give it an ID of movies list. And that won't change the formatting. It just creates a container we'll use for styling later. And then for these list items, they actually want us to add some hyperlinks. So I'm just going to copy and paste these in here. And then add some line feeds. So now, when I refresh the page, it looks like this. Now these links don't go anywhere, but they are now clickable. Okay, so let's keep on going. I'm going to add a header and a footer. So we're going to enclose our first level heading inside of a header. And then we're going to add a footer down here. That says this site was built using Microsoft Web Matrix, period, href equals http web.ms matrix, web matrix. Download it now. Okay, when we save that, go back, refresh my page, and now here you can see the page. This doesn't change at all. We've added this in the footer, but we don't see the logical order of it yet, or any stylistic elements, but we'll soon change that. Okay, and the tutorial has us start doing some inline styling on the tag level, but since this isn't IT240, we're going to skip forward on that and start making our own external style sheet. So we're going to create another file, new file, CSS. We'll call this movies.css. And it's going to have the following elements: body, font, family, Toma, Verdana. Geneva is absent, so we'll skip that one. And then sans serif. Oh, not Windows. Width is 85%. Margin 20 pixels. Auto. Then header is padding 10 px. Border bottom 1px solid. Number and add the color E5, 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 semicolon. And then first level headings within the header, font size extra large, and semicolon. Then font weight is normal. Padding is 0px, and margin is 0px. So no margin, no padding, non-bolded, but very large first level heading. Okay, now we have the div that we called movies list, and we'll give it a margin of 20px on and 0. Then the list items in movies list, and here's one of the typos in the tutorial because it says to use UL, but we had OL, ordered list, and so we'll match that. And then list style, none, margin, 0, padding, 0. Then the anchor text for the movies list. Then we have font size large, color, and then display, block, padding 5px, and then the hover over the links in the movies list, hover, border left, 10px solid, 94C9D4, background color, send E7F5 F8, and text decoration none, and that should do it. Now we need to go to our HTML file and we'll have our link right underneath our title, link to the style sheet. Okay, this is a style sheet. Type text CSS href equals movies.css, just like that. And we need to go back here now and add one more element for the footer. Font size smaller, color, CCC, text align center, padding 20px, 10px, 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 and border top, and 1 pixel solid E5, E5. Okay, let's see how this has turned out. We'll bring back our website, refresh it. And now here's a list of my favorite movies. There's my hover effect. This is my header. And this is my footer. Okay, so it's now starting to come together. Now, let's see here. We've got added div. Oh, we already added the div. Okay. And now we move on to part 4. Okay, so now we're going to create a CSHTML page that uses Razor. We're going to insert some C# code into our web page so that we can reuse some HTML components. You can read a little bit about that. So we're going to create a new file, CSHTML. We're going to call this movies. And all we're going to have here is a div ID equals movies list, just like we had before. Ordered list, li. I'm just going to copy these in. And even out the white space a little. Okay, so I save that. Now, if I just load, I'm going to open up my browser. And go to movies.cshtml. I get this wonderful list, all numbered again. Okay. So I'm going to create a header and a footer, and then I'm going to insert that header and footer into here. So I'll move this back. I'm going to create a new page, new file, CSHTML. I'm going to call this page header. And this one is going to have the top of the original default HTML page. That didn't come out very clean. I'll just retype it. Doc type HTML, HTML, lang English, and then head, meta, charset, UTF-8, title, my favorite movies, link, style sheet, type, text CSS, not hidden, href equals movies.css. Close the head. Open up the body. Add a header. First level heading. A list of my favorite movies. Then I'm going to take off everything below the header just like that. I'll save that, and I'm going to create another page. Now it shows I have some errors down here, but that's because I'm not planning to use this as a standalone web page. So we'll create a new file. We'll call this page footer. This one is going to just have div id equals footer. And the footer element. This site was built using Microsoft Web Matrix. Web.ms, Web Matrix. Download it now. And that should do that. Now we'll go to our movies. CSHTML and add 2 lines of code at render page header, and then at the bottom here at render page footer. Now, if we go back to our web page, I refresh. Okay. Excuse me. Footer.cshtml. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. So now we're back to this. So you'll see the header was inserted, it was included in, it was rendered, as well as the footer before and after this. So we can now create other pages and reuse that header and footer text. Okay. So as the tutorial says, that's one approach. There's another way of doing it, which is creating a default site layout template that includes both the header and the footer, telling the web server to use that layout template for any of the pages and that you create next, and then using a razor code line that says render body and putting it into the template. Okay, we'll do that next. Okay, so now we're going to create a layout page. So we're going to create another new file. And it's CSHTML, and we'll call it underscore site layout. Now we have this. And it says replace the content with the following. And so far, all this is a duplicate of the default HTML page. We'll start with that. And then we're going to take out this div, this movies list div. We're going to replace it with one line of code that says at render body. Okay. So the render body is going to tell Web Matrix to render the contents of the page here. So whatever page we're going to use that's going to call on this site layout, that content is going to go here. Okay. And then we're going to create another page. So I'm going to save this. Then create new file, CSHTML, and call this underscore page start CSHTML. And we just add one line here, get rid of this HTML stuff. and its layout equals the underscore site layout.cshtml file we just created. And we'll have a semicolon there. Save that. Now we're going to go back to our browser. I'll actually go back to movies.cshtml, and I'm going to get rid of this render page. Save it. Now when I go back to my browser, my movies.cshtml, I'm going to refresh that, and it looks the same. And if I try to view the page source, it's going to look just as if the material was here, but you'll notice it's not. Go back to movies.cshtml, and that's all this is. So it's calling this page, but then the web server knows to look to page start. Page start says use site layout as the template for the page, and then render the body of the movies.cshtml right here. Okay, and then it turns out like this. This is the code that's generated and sent to the browser. Okay. All right, so we're going to create another page called About Me. I'm going to close this now. Back here, new, file, call this about.cshtml. And all it has is h1 about me, and then h2, I'm the author of this page. I should put something interesting here. Okay. So now we'll go back to our browser and change this to about.cshtml, and there, same header, same footer, and here's the text I just created. Okay. So now if I want to edit the about page, I can focus on the content rather than all of the header and footer and other stuff that would show up in the page source. Okay. So let's look to the next section to start using some data. Okay, now we're on part 5 of Web Development 101 using data. So we're going to go down here. We've been in our files section. Now we're going to move down to databases. And you'll see there's no databases right now here, but if we click on Add Database to your site, we get movies1.sdf, and that's created. Now I need to add a table. You'll see here there's this drop down. There's no tables yet. But if I click up here to New Table, then I can name my table. Let's see. Do they specify a name for our table? We'll call this Favorites. And then we're going to enter a column name. And this is going to be ID. And it's going to be a big int. And mark this as allow nulls is false. And it's going to be the primary key. And mark is identity as yes. And that should do it there. And if you're following along in the tutorial, you'll notice this is a little different. Layout for the column properties. And then we're going to go to See, name, and then release here, then genre. Let's type these in, name, and then do another one, release year, then genre, and for name, we have allow nulls is true, data type is n text, and then its primary key is false, and identity, okay, and we'll go to the next one, release here, and this should probably be some sort of, I'll call it numeric, we don't need precision, we'll call this int, and allow nulls, and then genre, let's see if they specify in the tutorial, they don't, so just leave that as in text, and I think that's good, so then we can save this. Then I can click on data. I can set this to ID, it's 1. There we go, ID. Why are we, okay, name is It's a Wonderful Life, Alicia 1946, genre comedy, and then Lord of the Rings 2001 drama, and The Fourth World 2012 anime, and then The Lion King 1994 family. Okay, so now that we've created our data, we need to create a page that uses our data, so we're going to create a new CS HTML page. Go back to Files, the New File, and we're going to call this Data Movies. And we're going to add this code, and at the top we're going to say create a variable called db, set it equal to database open, and call this movies. I'm going to call it movies1 because that's the name of my database. And then create another database variable called equal q, and that's select star from favorites, semicolon, with another variable called data, and let's run the db query from SQLQ, and that's it. Okay, so this line opens up the database we created, and that connection ends up getting stored here. And then here's our SQL code for querying the database. And then we're going to store the results of this query in the variable data. And then we're going to have code here for our div ID, so I'm going to go back to the movies, CS HTML, grab this code to start with, and get rid of the layout stuff, and just have this data here, and instead of these links, I'm going to create a for each loop, and the variable is a row in data, and then I'm going to say so I'm going to open up my braces, and then li ahref equals, leave that there for now, and they have us doing It's a Wonderful Life at first, and we'll get rid of this. And what this will do is, depending on the number of rows we have in the database, it will run this line of code multiple times. Okay, so we're going to open this up, and this is our data movies CSHTML. So I'm going to just grab this and do data movies.cshtml. And there I have 4 instances of It's a Wonderful Life because there are 4 records in my database. I'm going to go back here and change this a little so that we use the variable name, the name field from that row, row.name. Now, if I run this again, I get my database records, which is pretty handy. Alright. So I'm going to add not the genre and release here. So I just need to add a little bit more code to this. At row.genre and at row.release year. Save that. I refresh. And now we're getting more of our data out of the database. Okay, so that's how to do a simple select statement. We've got 3 lines of code to set up the query, and then we just use a for each loop to iterate and grab these field names out of the data we retrieved from our database query and create a list of content. Now we're on part 6 of our Web Development 101, and we're going to create an add data page. We'll go back to data movies, and we're going to surround, we've got the movies list. It says before closing the div tag, add the following HTML. So we're going to create a line that says ahref add movie.cshtml. This add a new movie. And then we'll save that. That will simply add a link to this new page. And then we're going to add, we'll create a new page called addmovie.cshtml, and we'll create a simple form. New file. And this is addmovie.cshtml. Get rid of all of this. H1. Add a new movie to the database. Form action equals empty, and then method is post. Name input type equals text. Name equals form name. Okay. NP input type. Submit. Value equals add movie. And there we have it. Okay, so this is our add movie.cshtml. Add a new movie, and here's our form. Okay. And we're going to make sure this style works well, so we need to add this to our CSS. I'm going to add some CSS here. Is our CSS still open? It is. And we're going to do a basic H1 font size. Go back to our browser. And there, that makes it a little bit more standard looking. And, okay, so we need some code at the top of the add movie SHTML. And we're going to do this. That. If is post, if the method is post, and movie name equals request, form name, movie genre equals request, form genre, and movie year equals request, form year. And I also need some variables. Movie name equals empty string. Var movie genre equals empty string. And var movie year equals empty string. Okay. And then we need a little bit more code here inside of our if statement. Then we say var SQL insert equals insert into favorites name genre release year. Values at 0, at 1, at 2. Okay, why is this? Oh, take that off there. Okay, that looks better. I don't think these are spaces we needed. And then var db equals database open movies 1, and then db dot execute SQL insert movie name, movie genre, movie year, semicolon. Okay, so now I should be able to add, go back here, and I'm going to type Forrest Gump, which I've never seen, 1990, comedy, 1994, okay, and I'm going to say The Million Year Journey, which I also haven't seen, anime, 2014. Okay, so now if I go back here to my data movies, see here are the new films I just added to the database, which is pretty cool. Okay, now we're on part 7 of Web Development 101. We're going to create an edit data page. It says up to now you've created your movie page, styled it, made it data driven, and then created a form that you could use to add movies to your database. The next step will be to create a very similar form that you can use to edit your existing list of movies. Okay, this is our current web page as it stands. Okay, now we're going to create an edit movie page. We'll go back here. Alright, new file, CSHTML. Should rename this to edit movie. Okay. Then we're going to change this so that we have H1, edit a movie, form action equals empty string, method equals post, and we have paragraph name, input type equals text, name equals form name, new paragraph, genre equals input type equals text, name equals form genre, I need to close this, new paragraph, year, input type equals text, name equals form year, new paragraph, input type equals submit, value equals edit movie. Need to close these off. There we go. And we'll save this. Okay. So now we're going to go, it says call the edit page from the movies list. Now we have the basic foundation for the edit form, but how do we initialize the form with the contents of the database? Okay, so we're going to go back to our data movies.cshtml, and we are going to, let's see, it says, as you might recall, we had the list of items written out like this, href equals number sign and all of this, and we're just going to change this to edit movie.cshtml question mark ID equals, and it's at row dot ID. Okay, so the same object that's listed with row name, row genre, row year, we're going to use row ID to pass that as a parameter to the edit movie.cshtml. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and if we run this, now if I click on this link, you'll see my URL is editmovie.cshtml !id equals 1. Okay, and that's what I want. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the edit movie page, and we have our form, but we need to get all of the database stuff going. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this, and we're going to use @brace, and variable ID equals request ID. Grab that from the string that was passed in the URL. Var SQL select equals select star from favorites where ID equals @0, close quotation mark, semicolon. Okay, and then variable DB equals database dot open movies var movie equals db dot query single SQL select ID var movie name equals movie dot name var movie genre equals movie dot genre, and var movie year equals movie dot release year. And then we have the close brace. So what have we done up here? So we're calling edit movie, and we're going to create a variable called ID, and that's going to request the ID from the URL that was passed to the page. Okay, var equals SQL select, so we're going to select star from favorites where ID equals @0. That @0 is the first parameter that was passed to the page, which is just this ID. Okay, so we're going to pull up all of the values, all of the fields from favorites where the ID matches the ID that was passed because we just clicked on this link. Then we're going to open the database, the movies database, and we're going to query using this SQL statement, and there's actually the parameter for @0 right there, and then we're going to set those fields, those 3 fields, to these 3 variables. Okay, and now we go down here and we say, change this, we're going to fill in these values. So we say value equals @movie name, and value equals @movie genre, and then value equals @movie year. Okay. Now we'll save this. We're going to rerun our database. Here we are. This is the data movies page, and I'll click It's a Wonderful Life. Oh, connection string movies was not found. Ah, that's because mine is movies 1. That's right. Yours will probably be movies, but since this was the second time I started this project in Web Matrix, I have movies 1. So we're going to open up and set that to movies 1. Save it. Relaunch. Okay. It's a Wonderful Life. Okay. Now, you'll see this data gets filled in. And now I just need to figure out what to do with this button, because I actually do need to correct this and say It's a Wonderful Life. But if I click this, it doesn't do anything. It just reloads the page. So we said this form button method is post. So I want to do something about that. It says you can type into the boxes to change any of the values, but when you press Edit Movie, nothing happens. You might recall from the Add Movie page in the last chapter that the button triggers a form submit, which is an HTTP post, as opposed to the HTTP GET, which occurred when the page was called from the hyperlink, which needs to be processed. Okay, and so we can look back here to Add Movie, and you'll see here we have if is post, movie name equals request form name. So it sets those back in. This uses an insert statement. Okay, we're going to use an update statement this time. So we'll go back to Edit Movie, and we'll put this right above the code, within our curly braces here. If is post movie name equals request form name, then movie genre, need that semicolon there, movie genre equals request, and this is form genre, semicolon, and movie year equals request form year, semicolon, let's see, and then variable SQL update equals quote update favorites set name equals at 0, comma, genre equals at 1, release year equals at 2, where ID equals at 3, semicolon, DB execute SQL update movie name, movie genre, movie year, movie, and then just ID. Okay. Don't really need these spaces. Try to keep this consistent, but we could. Okay. Then response redirect data movies dot cs html. Okay, so there, that should work. So now if it's a post, which is what this calls, type equals submit, method equals post. If is post, then set movie name to form name, movie genre to form genre, movie year to form year. So update these values, and then SQL update favorites, set name. That's the first item, second item, third item, fourth item, and here we have first item, second item, third item, fourth item, and then redirect back to the data movies page. Okay, so we've got this saved. We run this again, and now if I go here and I say It's a Wonderful Life, change that to It's a Wonderful Life movie, and now It's a Wonderful Life. Excellent. Okay, here we are on part 8, creating a delete data page. We've reached the point where we have a data-driven list of favorite movies. We've styled it, added the ability to add new movies, and edit existing movies in the database. Now we're going to create the application. Okay, so we're going to add a delete page, go back to WebMatrix, and we're going to create a new file, CSHTML. We're going to call this delete movie. CSHTML, and then we're going to replace the HTML with the following. H1, delete a movie. P, are you sure you want to delete the movie? Strong. At movie dot whatever that was. Movie no. At movie name. Put a dot. What in the world? There we go. At movie name. Question mark. Close strong, close P. And then form action equals empty string. Method equals post. Input type is submit. Value equals ES. Then input type equals submit. Value equals no. On click equals window dot location equals data movies dot CSHTML. Make sure this matches the case of your data movies file. And then close form. Okay, now we have a basic form with 2 buttons, but we're going to need a little bit more than that. Now we need to go back to the, let's see, this creates a basic form containing 2 buttons. Just run this. And then if we say this was called delete page, no, not .html, .cshtml, and watch the case, delete movie. Okay, got a compilation error because there's no, probably because it can't find movie name. So we'll go back to WebMatrix code. And we're going to need to add some razor code at the top of the page to catch the input parameter, which movie we're actually trying to delete here. So we say at brace var id equals request id semicolon var sql select equals select star from favorites where id equals at 0 var db equals database dot open movies 1 var movie equals db dot query single sql select id var movie name equals movie dot name, and that should do it. Okay, here you can see that the parameter was passed to the page as ID using delete movie.cshtml question mark ID equals whatever, and this is used to find the specific movie. Okay, so now, okay, we're going to try to run this. Go back here, run Internet Explorer. I'm going to say delete movie question mark ID equals 1. Are you sure you want to delete the movie It's a Wonderful Life? Or 2, Lord of the Rings. Or 3, The Fourth World. Now, nothing happens yet. See? There's no code behind the post action. We still need to add that. But now that's working. So we're going to add an if is post back here at the bottom. Var SQL delete equals delete from favorites where ID equals @0. db execute SQL delete ID, and then a response dot redirect, so send them back to the data movies.cshtml. And so that should do the trick, except now we need to call the delete page from the movies list. Okay, so we're going to go back to the data movies. We're going to add a link into the list item. href equals delete movie dot cshtml ID equals @row dot ID, and then say delete. So now when we run this, you'll see It's a Wonderful Life, delete, Lord of the Rings drama, delete. We're going to head and we're going to delete The Million-Year Journey. Are you sure you want to delete this? Yes, and now you see the list has been updated here. Okay, so now you've done it. You've created a full application that has create, retrieve, update, delete functionality on a database, and which uses server-side code to dynamically generate HTML. Sounds a lot more complex than it was, right? You can learn a lot more about Razor syntax and how to build applications using it at asp.net/webmatrix fundamentals, which is right here. And you can go through and get started. Thank you.